What's up, everybody? It is your doctor, Dr. Remy LeBeau, here in the X-Layer to provide you with your treatment that you have been waiting for to help alleviate the symptoms from X-Men statue withdrawal syndrome, the scourge of your family and many families across the globe for generations. Unfortunately, there's no cure, and all we can offer us in the medical community is as many statue videos as possible to help get you through every moment that is as difficult as this one is for you. Today we have something very special. It's a very rogue-tacular day. As you can see, we've got the two versions of full-size statues of Rogue that have been released by Bowen Designs. Both of them are very cool-looking statues. Both of them have her in a flying pose, but obviously one is better than the other. As far as I'm concerned, immediately one stands out as being better than the other. And I'm going to say it's this one. This one wins. Spoiler alert for this video. By the end of the video, you'll know exactly why this one is the better statue than this one. But, I mean, obviously there's certain things that this statue can't accomplish. One of them being that it is not the 90's Rogue, the X-Men design representing the Jim Lee era, representing the 90's cartoon. So this one, obviously is more iconic for fans of the X-Men that aren't necessarily comic book fans because they got into the X-Men through the 90's cartoon. And so if you're just choosing based on the design of Rogue that you're most interested in, that you can identify the most with, then you're gonna choose this statue, even though this is a much better statue overall, as far as the design, as far as the execution, as far as everything really. The paint job, even though this has a good paint job, the thing about this one is like it's kind of bulky and it's not as pretty as this one is, but it is pretty. It's not ugly by any means. They're both pretty statues. They're both pretty. I mean, Rogue is a very pretty character. She's beautiful. That's why Remy LeBeau, my namesake, is interested in her. She's a beautiful woman, but she, as you all know, she has to stay covered up. And so you can see on both of these, she's completely covered up. Her body's completely covered up. She can't touch people. If she does, she absorbs their energy, absorbs their memories. It's a huge mess. This represents Rogue in the 80's era. This represents Rogue in the 90's era. If you're just looking to make a particular display for a particular era, obviously that's going to be a huge determinant. This one was released last year in 2012. Yep, and there's 800 of these. This one was released in 2007, so 5 years ago, 5 years prior to this one. 6 years ago from the date of this video, which is roughly June of 2013. And there's actually more of this one that were made as well. But given that this one's more limited than this one, I think this one had 1,500 made. But this one was released sooner, more recent than this one. They should both kind of be in the same sort of price range. I might be wrong. I think this one goes for like 150 to 200, and this one goes for about 200, maybe slightly over 200. And I have a feeling this one's going to go up in price more over time because it's just a more beautiful statue. Of course, there is another Rogue statue coming, the modern Rogue statue that Bowen Designs is releasing probably early next year. And so you're going to have more Rogue options to choose from. Plus, with this one, there's like the Rogue Premium Format figure by Bowen Designs that sort of provides you another option for this costume if you're just into the costume. And so because there aren't other statues with this costume, you're a big Rogue fan, you might just go for this one as well. There's a lot of reasons to go for this one over this one. But this is a good statue. If it wasn't a good statue, I wouldn't have it. I emphasized that in the individual video for that statue. I don't want to get into all that right now, but again, you can actually go on my blog post for this video, and I've got links to each individual post for them, so you can look at more photos for each statue and and their individual videos as well, just to kind of get a better idea of what you might be looking at, what you might be buying, if that's what this video is helping you do to decide which one to get. Um, so, I mean, the bases on these are both very elaborate. So we're just comparing bases. This one obviously is a lot more elaborate, probably one of the most elaborate X-Men bases in existence. Um, but this one is elaborate in the sense that it's kind of like a swoosh flying. It's meant to sort of evoke like this look of flying, or like a quick sort of dash up, and that's why it's got like kind of like this gradient from like clear to green to clear green. Um, so it's not as elaborate as this one, obviously, but it's an elaborate sort of concept, and was executed nicely. So it's very nice. And of course, on the bottom you got the classic X base. On this one, you can see it's just got a lot of detail. It's her like kind of breaking through this brick wall. It's got like all this detail on the back with like these electrical sort of components, and just a lot of brick kind of flying, which is really cool. Like, I love how dynamic it is. It's just difficult to pose within a display. That's the only thing about it. It's just you want to kind of see all of it, and you obviously the best way to display her is like from this angle. So if you're looking at her, if so, the camera is where you would be. I think this is the best way to display her. So you get like this angle of her, you get a lot of her body, and by doing that, you miss out on a lot of the statue that was produced. So it's weird. It's a weird situation with the statue where it's like you get a lot and you like it, but it's not something that you can exploit. So it kind of winds up being unnecessary to some extent, but not really, because I mean you do wind up seeing her from all different angles throughout the time that you own her. So anyway, so as far as the base goes, I like this base better. It's more simple and it works. Now they're both flying, which is really cool. And that's great because Rogue, obviously, she absorbed Miss Marvel's powers permanently for a period of time until the point where Hope, the sort of the star child, like the after decimation, after the Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, and there weren't any mutants for a long time born, and there were only like less than 200 mutants in existence in the Marvel universe. Hope was the first baby to be born, uh, and then Cable took her into the future and raised her. Now I think right before Cable took her into the future, she touched Rogue or something, and she kind of cleared Rogue out. Like everything that Rogue had ever absorbed was gone, and it was very nice for Rogue because she finally got some peace, a kind of peace that she hadn't had for a very long time, which is great. But she lost the ability to fly. But in the subsequent stories, I mean, there were times where she absorbed flying powers, and so she can always potentially fly. So I know folks have mentioned that in the modern statue that's coming out, she's shown as flying, and that's not necessarily comic accurate anymore. But that's not necessarily true because she could absorb a flying power at any time, and that's why I'm okay with her having that flying pose in the modern statue. Now we're going to have 3 statues of Rogue, and they're all going to be of Rogue in a flying pose, which is really cool. And these are both like they're unique versions of her, in like a flying pose. Like here, she's like flying, but she's like breaking through a wall, and here she's just like taking off. So here she's just like looking pretty, and here she's like looking tough and like kind of, and also just like about to hit, or just having just hit through this wall, which is really cool. Actually, this reminds me of like that scene in the X-Men cartoon of the 90's where she's fighting Gladiator in the 3rd episode of the Phoenix Saga in season 3. And they were in Cassidy Keep, and she like breaks through one of the walls. So this kind of reminds me of that. So there's like a lot of reasons to like this one if you're a fan of the 90's cartoon and you're a fan of the 90's X-Men Jim Lee comics, as I said. All right, both faces are very pretty. For some reason, this one stands out more to me. The costumes both look great because they both have like this great like paint color scheme choice, which is to have like matte colors, and matte colors juxtaposed against like metallic colors. So here you've got the metallic green boots and gloves and bathing suit, one piece, over like this black matte uh, bodysuit that she seems to be wearing below those elements. And then here we got the yellow matte paint for a lot of the yellow elements, and then the green is like a green metallic color. So I really love that when Bowen Designs and other statue producers do that, because it really, like I've mentioned in the past, it really makes the costume elements just stand out quite a bit that are metallic, and also calls attention to the non-metallic elements. It's a really great choice. I love it. Um, Obviously, this one has the jacket, which I never really liked the jacket. I don't know why she has this jacket, but it's cool because she has the X symbol on it. So that, I mean, there's definitely redeeming qualities for that. But this one doesn't have a jacket. So as far as like the overall costume goes, I like this costume more than this costume. It's just a lot simpler. If we're just comparing like designs of costumes without kind of thinking about the context in which they existed and how much value one era has versus another. If we're talking about like 90's versus 80's X-Men stories, I like the 90's more because that's when I got into it. So, but as far as the design go, I like this one better. The hair, I love the hair on this one. It's like so full and flowing and just, it's classic Mike Cusinelli hair. And I think that's what, and also represents her in this era. She had this huge like hair. Like if you read the 80's comics or look at the 80's comics, like she's got this big hair in all of those comics. Um, and then in 90's, she had big hair too, but for some reason, I don't know. There's something about her hair on this one that I don't like too much. It's not as full as it should be. I don't know. I don't love the hair on this one. But like I said, if the decision is going to come down to a few things, if it's not about the things I've already mentioned. If we're talking about like space requirements, like how much space you need to display a statue, they're both kind of in the same category as far as like the amount of room you need. But fortunately for this one, because there's so much less to it, like the base is a lot simpler. It's a lot easier to display her. You just kind of put her in the position that you see her in now, and you basically get what you're looking for from the statue. She's like there, she's flying, she's beautiful, she's great. With this one, you need to display her like this, but like I said, it's you lose a lot of what the statue has to offer, and it's actually more difficult to place her within a team display. This one's a lot easier to place her because there isn't like these obstructing elements below, so it's easier to place her within a team display if that's what you're going for. Of course, in the end, if you're just going for like Rogue, because you're a Rogue fan and you just want Rogue statues all over the place, they're both very nice. I mean, you can see them together in this video. They look great together. Um, she's a beautiful character. She's just a classic core, seminal character of the X-Men that any X-fan loves. So I don't know. That's why like it really shouldn't be a decision between the two if you can afford both and just like Rogue. So you don't necessarily need to make team displays like 90's and 80's. You can just have like a Rogue display and just kind of have these together, and then maybe throw in the new Rogue that's coming, the modern Rogue, which is like a very nice costume. Which actually I think is this costume here. I don't know if you can see it. Um, Here it is. This costume here, in this image by I think his name is shoot. I think it's Mark Newman? No, I have to figure out who that was. Sorry about the screeching there. Um, so you can just do like a really nice Rogue display with these two and like that third Rogue that's coming out, and that would work. But if in the end, for whatever reason, it comes down to a decision between these two, you only want one Rogue statue because you don't have that much money, because you don't like her that much, but you just want Rogue to be in your collection, I would go for this one. That's my recommendation. Of course, in the end, you can do whatever you want because, well, you have free will, fortunately. All right, folks. Well, that pretty much covers this comparison video of these two lovely Rogue statues. Again, you can check out my blog, which is X-Men Statues of Future Past.blogspot.com. in order to check out the individual posts for these two and check out individual photos of all the various like characteristics that they wield. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. As you all know, it is Dr. Remy LeBeau's X-Lair. And as always, I'm going to mention this because it should be mentioned. Everyone be very careful about putting an X in the box because ain't nobody checking me. Take care and goodbye.